Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Impossible. Today, we are taking a clip from a recent full length episode between Austin and I, where we discuss how people can use comfort and pleasure to distract ourselves from an uncomfortable reality. And what's most important is we lay out the solution so that you can build a life that ultimately leads you to not having to distract from an uncomfortable reality, but rather building the reality of your dreams.
Do not take that route.
Yeah, I'm really glad you stopped me there, actually, because you bring up a you bring up a really good point. We recorded a whole podcast on that subject of comfort being this kind of betraying thing, whereas if you allow yourself to dive too deeply into it, it can consume you and control you and completely take you off the path of where it is you're headed. But I think there's actually, like, what you brought up there highlights kind of a dichotomy to comfort, in that, yes, if you're in this position where you're just immersing yourself in comfort, you're binge watching TV shows on evenings and weekends whenever you get a chance, you eat simply based off of pleasure, you never work to train your body or your mind or to grow, you essentially become a victim of the circumstances rather than the visionary constructor of your own reality. When you're in that position, you are deeply immersed in what we would call comfort. But I don't think anybody who's totally immersed in that position truly feels comfortable deep within themselves.
No, absolutely not.
And so there's actually, you're essentially using comfort to distract yourself from the discomfort of reality. Mm-hmm. Whereas the other way around, and I definitely can change the wording of that. But what I had brought up previously was the antithesis to that, which is when you immerse yourself in consistent acts of discomfort that trigger and in some ways force growth and development, then you can actually sit back and enjoy the comfort of reality. When you construct your day such that you're growing mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and you're using that strength and growth to serve others, you can sit back at the end of that day and look at your day. Like you said, I accomplished a lot today. It was very challenging. It was very difficult, but I'm happy, and I can take peace of mind and comfort, or whatever word it is you want to throw at it. You can take some level of contentedness just from the knowledge of what you endured that day, what you suffered through, what you strived for, what you created, what you built. And that actually brings a comforting perspective to your reality. And so you have to choose one of those two options, I think. I don't think there's any other nature in which the human spirit can exist. But I know for myself, and I believe for everyone, the latter is ultimately more gratifying.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I 100% agree.
Yeah. And so there's this dichotomous approach to the world of comfort. And I think that ties into this concept of reaching for the stars, this building of the impossible version of yourself. Because the only way you will ever get to that doing the impossible is to build someone who is capable of it. Mm-hmm. If you, as who you are right now, are 100% capable of whatever it is you're chasing, then you need to set a higher goal. You need to set a higher standard. You have more potential open to you. And if there's nothing else you take away from this episode today, it would be that. And I think this is the hardest part of our message for people to grasp. Even people who have followed us for years, even people who know us incredibly well, even ourselves sometimes, this is the hardest part to grasp. This idea that you have to set your sights on something beyond what is comfortable, beyond what you believe you're capable of, beyond what you can do right now in this moment. And then you work to build the person who is capable of achieving those things that you yourself are not capable of right now. Mm-hmm. That's the impossible version of yourself. That's the becoming impossible. And then that person will be capable of doing that thing. At no point in my life have I been capable of squatting 500 pounds until I went through the long, arduous, incredibly uncomfortable process of building that man. And while I had to build up a lot on the physical side, there was so much more I had to build on the mental, emotional, and spiritual side. And after I did that 500-pound squat, as I've told you before, that was one of those moments where I came out from under that bar a different man than I stepped under that bar as. And it's not that my whole life radically changed and everything I wanted changed or my course changed. It was my default level of strength and fortitude changed. It got an instant boost and increase. There have been so many areas of my life that I deeply struggled with before that moment that I have not remotely struggled with in the same capacity since. And that's a very powerful thing, for you to be able to change and grow that significantly in, I would say, one instantaneous moment, but it wasn't that moment specifically that changed me. It was everything I did building up to that moment. And then the culmination of that all coming together, mm-hmm. that moment playing out how it did. And then coming out of that moment with the realization of, again, there's so much more out there. There are so many more stars I can chase. There's a world of potential beyond anything I've allowed myself to believe. And that is all accessible to me. Not only is it accessible to me, but I can earn that place among the stars. I'm worthy of that place among the stars. And while it's going to be extremely uncomfortable, it's going to involve massive challenge, it's going to involve massive discomfort, if I commit myself to not just enduring that every day, but to striving for that, to chasing that, to pursuing that, expand that out over a long enough time horizon, and I will find myself there. Mm-hmm. As the man I've always dreamed of becoming.
And taking that moment to, like I said before, there's a time and place to reflect. Mm-hmm. And that is the time and place to mm-hmm. reflect. When you fit, is when you, bit of words, when you have reached that star, when you have found yourself upon that peak, that is the best time to look back and go, whoa, look at what not only what I had to go through to achieve this, but look at the person that I was 6 months ago, a year ago, and in your case for the 500-pound squat. How long was that journey?
It was, I would call it 2 years from the first time it was conceptualized.
So for that 2-year journey, just thinking of who and what Matt was at the beginning of that, saying, let's do 500 pounds, to then actually doing it. I mean, just taking a look back at that, like I do the same thing when I look back upon the Austin that was on this earth in December of 2021. Like I look back at that because that's pretty much right before I started getting tested, because January 2nd is when I started getting tested for all this stuff. When I see him in the days that I look back, apologies.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this impossible moment today. If you learned something from this clip, the only thing we ever ask is that you please share it with as many people as you know. And if you want to dive deeper into the full episode, please click up here and it will take you directly to that full episode. Furthermore, if you really enjoy the content we're putting out with Impossible Performance and you want to become a part of this conversation off the camera and have exclusive member benefits to the podcast and private Q&As with our guests, click the link below in the description to join our online school community, where you can join an immersive community of individuals who are all working toward common goals in their lives. We can all learn and grow together. Hope to see you there. Thank you for listening today, and as always, be impossible.